Just a reminder here that Cliff Richard and Alvin Stardust are just two of the stars joining Sheila Walsh for the Rock Gospel Show Christmas Special tomorrow afternoon at 1:55 here on BBC1.
Sparkling family entertainment this Christmas with the magic of Walt Disney's award-winning Mary Poppins, starring Julie Andrews and Dick Van Dyke. Adventure in Courage of Lassie, starring Elizabeth Taylor.
He's all right then, isn't he?
Well, Nellie says so.
Well then, Mr. McLean, will you train Bill for me?
Well, of course, child, with the greatest of pleasure.
A Christmas story read by Jeremy Irons.
The snowflake was born on a cold winter's day, far up in the sky.
One of our dinosaurs is missing, starring Peter Ustinov.
It's a steel dinosaur.
Keith Harris with the lovable Orville and Dippy.
Roll up tonight, Stevie. Roll up tonight, Stevie. Your head's enough and your wings are flap.
Just some of the exciting family entertainment this Christmas on BBC1.
In a few minutes, an afternoon of sport with racing, skiing, motor racing, rugby league and rally cross, all in Grandstand, which follows a look now at the weather with Jim Bacon.
Hello there. Well, if you are spectating this afternoon, you're going to be kept reasonably warm because these are very mild southwesterly winds coming along. The bad news is they're carrying a lot of cloud and some rain as well. Most of the rain at the moment is down the western side of the country along this warm front. That's the start of the warmer weather. And as it spreads across the country, even temperatures in eastern areas will start to pick up. You'll also get the rain as well, I'm afraid. Then it's quite a long spell of mild southwesterly weather for a few hours, well, the rest of today and all of tonight. This cold front's the important thing, because if I step to one side, you'll see it stretches way down across the Atlantic, and there are, apart from the main low near Iceland, one or two other small lows along that front, and they'll be turning up, I think, during tomorrow, bringing more rain, especially to the north for a time. And then behind it, as the front comes south, much colder weather turning up for Christmas Eve. So that's Monday, it looks like, back to colder weather again. There could well be a few snow showers in the north, but fairly bright weather, albeit a cold and fairly strong wind. Now beyond that, there'll be another brief spell of milder weather on the first part of Christmas Day, and then I think back to colder weather with a vengeance again. Quick look at the satellite picture now. You can see how much cloud there is over the country, a lot of it over the western side. Some clearer weather to begin with earlier this morning in the east, but if you look further afield, you'll see that the cloud really does cover a good part of the Atlantic, and I'm sure you can detect the band of cloud along that cold front. A lot of fine, clear, frosty weather over the continent, you'll notice, and some fog patches there won't really clear today. Not too much frost to worry about here, on the other hand. A mild day, a breezy day. I did promise them nurses in Newmarket some sunshine this morning, but really that's about the best I can do. I'm trying very hard, and I'm afraid it'll rain later. And the mild weather gradually working its way across, taking its rain with it. But the good news is it does mean a very mild night indeed tonight, exceptionally so, 9 or 10 degrees centigrade, so that's almost 50 degrees Fahrenheit overnight. Drizzly weather left around those western coasts. Most of the rain, I think, confined to the northern and eastern part of the country by then, and then during Sunday, further wet and windy weather at times with a prospect of colder weather just after Christmas. And that's it.
Saturday cinema double bill over on BBC2 this afternoon raises the curtain at 2:50 with the screen version of Ernest Hemingway's Nobel Prize-winning story of The Old Man and the Sea, starring Spencer Tracy. And then at 4:15 there's comedy mixed with romance as James Stewart and Donna Reed eventually agree It's a Wonderful Life. Both films on BBC2. Here now on BBC1 with the time at 12:15 we join Des Lynam for Grandstand.
Hello, today in Grandstand, a special guest who seems to know what he likes.
I just like to see skill portrayed on the television screens or actually in live football. Individual skills.
The individual skills of Mal Meninga are on show today. You all know about the quality of Australian rugby union Big Mal is the rugby league man from down under who's setting things alight for St Helens.
Meninga again, he's got the pace, he's knocking him off, he's knocking Edwards off, and he's in!
St Helens play Halifax in the John Player Special Trophy third round. And we'll see the man with a world title in his sights, the outstanding Barry McGuigan.
Good right from McGuigan, and Rowan felt that. The legs began to look a little suspect then.
A look too at the man McGuigan must beat to become world champion. In racing, it's the Welsh national, last year's winner, the brilliant Borough Hill lad.
And it's the gamble of the race. Borough Hill lad going well on the inside, over on the near side, over on the far side. Royal Judgment, then Lucky Bane. Racing into the closing stages, it's Borough Hill lad from Royal Judgment and Lucky Bane. Racing up towards the line, it's another for John Frankham as they race up towards the line. Borough Hill lad wins the Coral Welsh National.
In skiing, the men can't find the snow, but there was plenty at Santa Caterina for the women's downhill. And the stars of the future, they're out there too. And Stig Blomqvist, who usually doesn't mind a bit of snow under the old back wheels, brings his driving talents to the British Rallycross Grand Prix. Well, as you can see, we've got the Christmas spirit here in Grandstand. Smashing tree. Good taste, huh? Bob, all yours with the football.
Thank you, Des. Well, as Des has already suggested, Brian Clough will be popping up throughout today's show, but first let's look back at last night's match at Loftus Road. Queen's Park Rangers against Liverpool, and the reigning champions sounding an ominous warning to those pretenders to their crown.
It's nicely done, this is Neil. No way was that a foul. Lawrenson came away solidly with the ball. And here's Rush. He can cut inside, this could be interesting. Walsh, they've got a man over, John Walk. John Walk's 12th of the season. Started by Lawrenson, across from Rush, which should have been cut out. Liverpool had two players, and Walk struck into the corner. On by Stainrod to Bannister. Gregory, brilliant clearance off the line by Lawrenson. Waddock. Oh, needed tackle by Chivers. Oh dear. He's onside. And it's 2-0. Celebration behind the goal. And Rangers defenders all looking at each other. But it's 2-0 to Liverpool, and Ian Rush's 7th goal of the season. Walsh and Chivers having a little push and shove fight. That's a nice turn. And a beauty! Oh, it came off the crossbar. What a lovely piece of play by Paul Walsh.
So a convincing win for Liverpool, and as Tony Gabber put it to their manager Joe Fagan, the champions' first victory in London this season.
So I hear it has been the first win in London this year. Oh, this season, let's put it that way. And we're very pleased. I think we like this ground, of course. We won last year here.
In fact, in some ways, it seemed to suit Liverpool's style, didn't it? The players said it was slick and quick, and in fact, that's the way Liverpool played.
I think so. The pitch actually played better for me, from my point of view, than last year. And our lads did play well on this. I was pleasantly surprised.
How did you see that first goal? Because Lawrenson brought it out of defence and might have hoisted it into the crowd, but instead kept control and looked up
control, and really then Rushy finished it off by a perfect pass to Walk. I was glad John Walk slipped, by the way. He was going to collect it, and he slipped, and then it ran on to Walkie, and Walkie...
Walshy slipped, didn't he?
Walshy slipped, and Walkie put it in. So I was quite pleased.
What's the news at this moment on Rush, who came off with a groin strain?
Now, Ian, first of all, Ian has had his best game to date tonight. Looked sharp, looked for goals, and he got one. And then, of course, he caught his boot on one of the opponent's studs or something, and his groin went. So I think he's doubtful for at least Wednesday, at least.
We've had all sorts of things said about Liverpool's season, but how do you see the season panning out for you now, Joe?
I don't. We never do. This is one of the things we never do at Liverpool. Somebody said to me going up the stairs, you haven't given up the championship. I said, I never even think about it. Again, they're all picking it up, I know, but it's one game at a time. We've always done it, and I couldn't tell you what's going to be, what's happening. Going to happen at the end of the season.
You can whistle, but you weren't whistling from the dugout tonight. Well, you were absent from the dugout. Why is that?
Now, everybody thinks, why do you go upstairs now? And sit I'll tell you why, the secret of it. I can't get a shout in. Ronnie Moran and Roy Evans, you never get a shout. So I thought, Lord, I'm going upstairs and enjoying myself up there. Well, watching the match anyway. You don't enjoy it till the final whistle, of course. And no, that's the reason why I don't go in the dugout. No, they let them. No, it's their job now, and they do it well. They do it well, both of them.
Do you see a different game from upstairs?
Not really. No, not really. I suppose you see a bit more overall, but in the main, no. You see the mistakes, you see the good play. And, of course, like anybody else in this game, your heart's in your mouth all the time. That's what it's always there, always there.
Thanks very much indeed.
Just can I make a last word, please?
Certainly.
I'd just like to wish all supporters everywhere, and players, officials, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Same to you, Joe. I just hope you found your way out the steam from the dressing room. Strange place to do an interview in a sauna, isn't it? It's no secret that one of Liverpool's greatest admirers is Brian Clough, and that in itself speaks volumes, coming as it does from an original thinker and someone who was a bit special as a player, never mind as manager of Derby and now Nottingham Forest. It's quite a weekend for Brian because tomorrow he takes Forest to Sunderland, one of the clubs he played for in his beloved North East.
Happy memories, because obviously my children were born there, 2 of them. One was born in Hartlepool and 2 in Sunderland. Happy time playing football in Sunderland. And I think while I was playing, it was the happiest time I'd ever had while I was a player.
If you don't mind my asking, what were you like as a youngster yourself?
What at? Table tennis? Or
growing up, what were you, how were you as a youngster? Were you just a normal...
Normal, I hope I was. I was obsessed with sport. I was obsessed with table tennis and football and rugby and cricket and all that type of thing. And obviously cricket was my first love, as you and I have discussed over a period of years. But just a normal, healthy upbringing. Show me a lad who's got an anorak and I'll show you a maladjusted child. But I liked my anorak and I liked being involved in sport.
You mentioned your playing days up there.
Yes.
Did you enjoy those playing days in the North East?
I did. I don't think there's any substitute for a footballer apart from, playing the game. There's nothing else after that. Everything else is a substitute. I know that sounds a bit Irish, but you do know what I mean. Once you stop playing, Race Carter once told me, he was manager of Middlesbrough at the time when I was with Sunderland, and then I finished playing and I tried to get a job with Race Carter at Middlesbrough. And he couldn't take me on at that particular time, but he did say one thing to me. He said, once you've finished playing football, he said they should shoot us. And I didn't know what he meant at that time, but I do know now, because there's no substitute for playing, as you found, sir.
It's a difficult thing for you to answer, Brian, but how good were you as a player?
I was good at the job I was paid to do. I was paid to score goals, and I was pretty good at it.
Well, just how good is shown right here. In 274 league games at Middlesbrough and Sunderland, Brian scored 251 goals. That's the highest goals per game ratio since the war. Quite amazing. It'll take some beating, I know that. Well, from a touch of nostalgia in England, let's turn now to Archie Macpherson and his preview of one of only 2 Premier Division games in Scotland this afternoon, the Old Firm match at Parkhead between Celtic and Rangers. Only an hour and a half to kick off, isn't it, Archie? Are you there all right?
Hello. Ah, Bob, what a pretty picture. Bob Wilson and the Sugar Plum Fairy. What a central defence that is. Absolutely marvellous.
I hope you're not talking about me.
Well, don't worry about it. I'll get to you in just a moment. Lads, let me start off on a very modest note by stating that the Celtic Rangers fixture is the greatest club game in the world. I could make outlandish claims for it, but I'll leave it like that. Now, Des, I remember when I took you to your first Old Firm game at Ibrox. At the end, we helped you off the platform pale and trembling. I remember Des said his hearing had gone and he'd lost a sense of touch. Well, he doesn't need to come to Glasgow. That happens so very regularly down in London. And it was he who said afterwards, watching English football would be like watching silent movies. Des, you put it better than I could. Well, it does affect a newcomer like that sometimes. It's all about tradition, stretching way back to the first one in 1890. And these rituals haven't changed. Colour and sound is largely the same, even though in recent years, Alec Ferguson's Aberdeen and Jim McLean's Dundee United have put them in the shade to a certain extent. Well, there are some marvellous games to pick from through the years, but I've narrowed it down to these next three. I can think of the New Year's Day of '83 when a young man called Charlie Nicholas came of footballing age. I recall the Centenary Cup final of '73 when a man who later went to Celtic played his heart out for Rangers and helped them win the cup. The name, Alfie Conn. And this first one, way back in 1967, just a handful of days before the old firm set off to play in the two major European finals. The cup winners for Rangers and for Celtic, the European Cup, which they won. Thus that Saturday, a very wet Saturday in '67, took on a new dimension. The score ended 2-2. And here are two of the four I remember best of all.
Inside forward, Smith. Jardine. That's a goal by Jardine. It's a goal for Rangers. At 5 minutes to half-time, that makes it Rangers 1, Celtic 0. Lennox trying to get it in. No. It's a goal for Celtic, yes. Johnston has scored, and that makes it 1 goal each.
Farley, nobody behind. Johnston, the beautiful ball to Dalglish. It's a goal. A beautiful goal by Dalglish. Here's Matheson. And McDonald, 11 minutes to half time. It's a good ball, it's a goal. Farley the scorer. 34 minutes of the game gone. Celtic 1, Rangers 1. Here's Quinton Young for Rangers. As towards Conn. Conn going through. And it's there. The goal for Rangers. Rangers 2, Celtic 1. Within about 30 seconds of the second half kickoff. That's a good ball to Johnston. And here's Deans with a chance. No, what's been given? Penalty to Celtic. George Connolly to take it. This is a vital one for Celtic. And he's done it. That's the equaliser. And it's in there. It's there. And it's 3-2 for Rangers. Buns. Celtic edging forward very slowly. They have 5 men in the penalty area. McStay, brilliant goal. Crisply hit him. Did that very well indeed. More typical of McDonald. Bet. Here is Cooper. Puts that away very well, and it's brilliantly saved. And there's a goal. Kenny Black, the equaliser. Into Nicholas, who ran very intelligently in. He's aiming for goal himself this time. And a brilliant goal.
Well, that's when he played up front. Celtic and Rangers over 3 decades. Now, today the home team, Celtic, will be the favourites. For Rangers have only won once there since the start of the Premier Division. And this season, Celtic have scored double the number of goals than their rivals. But Rangers so badly affected by suspensions in defence, they'll need something of a miracle to take something out of this game. However, Aberdeen, the champions, face up to Dundee United, who are minus Paul Sturrock. And I think that one factor will swing the game their way and consolidate their lead in the league. Well, lads, just before I go away, you'll be pleased to know I've just done in my cartridges. Because of the studio situation here, they put me in a remote studio. I'm all by myself with a camera. And I discovered that there was no seat, or at least no seat to fit me. So I've been doing this in terms of supplication, not to you two, of course. So as I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, I creak towards Celtic Park. Adios.
I've heard about being cut off in your prime, cut off your knees as well.
Down?
He was kneeling down there, Des. That's it.
Very fitting.
Yeah, thank you, Archie. Some marvellous memories and action in those old Celtic Rangers games, and despite the intense competition and rivalry, some real ability as well. Of course, we all have our own views on how the game should be played.
I just like to see skill portrayed on the television screens or actually in live football. Individual skills. I think our Football League, for example, are missing the people who are playing in Italy at the moment, because they've all got something to offer, the Francises and your ex-colleague at Arsenal, and young Hartley's latest one, Ray Wilkins. I think they would have added a wee bit to our Football League, and I feel it's wasted over there. You know, I was personally disappointed when Graham Souness went. Not that I particularly like the young man, because I don't know him, but I do like what I saw on the field from him, and I was terribly disappointed when that talent was going out of our Football League.
And when you talk about individual skill that you like, I mean, something like John Barnes' goal against Brazil would appeal to you particularly?
Anything like that, but that's only a second in, as I say, 300 games that you watch throughout a season. But it did give everybody a lift, because if it had been scored by a Brazilian, they'd have gone berserk. I mean, sometimes we say, oh, well, it's all right. But when I replay it, and I do replay it, because you don't lose things like that, you get them on tape, and when you replay it, when you're down on the floor, it does give you a wee bit of a boost. And I'm certain young men, as goal scorers in the Football League, do play that tape also.
I reckon the best goal of 1984. More from Brian shortly, but at the start of what is traditionally an important period for those clubs chasing honours, let's just remind ourselves of the current position. Nothing much in it, as you can see. Leaders Everton, you may remember, began the league season disastrously before picking up their first win, which was actually against today's opponents, Chelsea, at the end of August.
Reed in by Bracewell, and Richardson's coming up on the left and coming inside, and that's a good goal. And Richardson shows again what a good little finisher he is when he gets the sight of goal.
And since picking up those 3 points, Howard Kendall's team have only lost 2 of 16 First Division games. In contrast, Stoke are at the bottom after winning only 1 league game all season. They're now 10 points adrift of Luton and 11 behind Coventry and Ipswich. Ipswich have dived to 19th place after losing 5 of their last 6 games, while Coventry remain in one of the relegation positions despite winning against Southampton last Saturday.